The Phantom in the Sky, America's most audacious hijacking mystery. The tale of D.B. Cooper stands as America's most enduring aviation mystery, a narrative that transcends mere crime to become a haunting legend of audacity and disappearance. On a stormy November evening in 1971, when the world still believed in the sanctity of air travel and the impossibility of vanishing without a trace, one man rewrote the boundaries of daring and defiance, creating a mystery that would captivate generations and remain unsolved over half a century later. The man who called himself Dan Cooper. On November 24, 1971, as darkness descended upon Portland International Airport and travelers hurried through the terminal with Thanksgiving plans, a figure moved with deliberate calm against the flow of holiday chaos. He was unremarkable in appearance, a middle-aged man of average height in a business suit with a black tie and white shirt, yet within hours his name would be etched into American folklore. The man who identified himself as Dan Cooper approached the Northwest Orient Airlines counter and paid $20 cash for a one-way ticket to Seattle, his composed demeanor betraying nothing of the extraordinary events he was about to set in motion. The Boeing 727 awaited on the tarmac, its silver fuselage gleaming under the airport lights like a vessel of destiny. As passengers filed aboard Flight 305, Cooper settled into seat 18C with the practiced ease of a frequent traveler. The flight attendants later recalled nothing distinctive about him. He was courteous, ordered a bourbon and soda, and sat quietly as the plane taxied for takeoff. In that mundane moment, as engines roared to life and the aircraft lifted into the darkening skies, none could have suspected that this unremarkable passenger was orchestrating one of the most daring crimes in aviation history. The hijacking unfolds. When the seatbelt signs dimmed and the cabin settled into the rhythm of flight, Cooper made his move with chilling precision. He passed a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner, who, assuming it contained the familiar advances of a business traveler, placed it unopened in her purse. "Miss," Cooper said, his voice low but firm, "you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." The words, delivered with unsettling calmness, pierced the ambient hum of the cabin. The note's contents were direct and ominous. Cooper claimed to have a bomb in his briefcase and demanded $200,000 in unmarked bills and 4 parachutes. When the skeptical Schaffner leaned closer, Cooper opened his attaché case to reveal what appeared to be red cylinders attached to wires, a crude but convincing bomb. The flight attendant, maintaining remarkable composure, relayed the demands to the cockpit. Captain William Scott, recognizing the gravity of the situation, immediately contacted air traffic control, setting in motion an extraordinary sequence of events. As the plane circled Puget Sound, awaiting instructions, Cooper demonstrated an uncanny knowledge of aviation procedures and the Boeing 727's specific capabilities. He spoke with authority about flight paths, fuel requirements, and technical specifications that suggested military training or professional aviation experience. His calm demeanor never wavered, even as FBI agents scrambled on the ground below and Northwest Orient executives hastily assembled the ransom money. The Seattle Exchange. Dusk had deepened into night when Flight 305 touched down at Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. The runway lights cut sharp lines through the gathering fog, creating an otherworldly stage for the drama unfolding. Cooper's instructions were explicit. The ransom money, 10,000 unmarked $20 bills, and the 4 parachutes were to be delivered by a Northwest Orient employee alone, with no police or FBI personnel approaching the aircraft. Inside the terminal, FBI agents frantically photographed each ransom bill, recording serial numbers in case the money ever surfaced again. Meanwhile, Cooper maintained absolute control of the situation, permitting the 36 passengers and 2 flight attendants to disembark, but keeping the pilot, co-pilot, flight engineer, and 1 flight attendant on board. His methodical approach to the hijacking revealed a mind that had contemplated every variable, anticipated every contingency. The exchange completed, Cooper examined the parachutes with the scrutiny of an expert, rejecting one that had been sabotaged with a sewn-shut ripcord. This attention to detail further suggested specialized knowledge that would become central to the enduring mystery of his identity. With the ransom secured and the passengers safely evacuated, Cooper turned his attention to the next phase of his audacious plan, a phase that would transform a conventional hijacking into an unsolved enigma. The second flight and final preparations. Under Cooper's precise instructions, the Boeing 727 took off again at 7:40 p.m., now with only 5 souls aboard, the 3 pilots, 1 flight attendant, and the hijacker himself. The night had turned violent, with rain lashing against the fuselage and wind buffeting the aircraft as it climbed into the storm-darkened sky. Yet Cooper's demeanor remained unshaken, his commands clear and calculated. Maintain an altitude below 10,000 feet, keep the landing gear down, set the flaps at exactly 15 degrees, and maintain an airspeed of no more than 170 knots. These weren't arbitrary demands, but precise requirements for what would come next. Cooper understood that at this specific configuration, the 727's unique rear air stairs could be lowered during flight, a feature known primarily to aviation specialists and military personnel. As the plane traced a southward path toward Reno, Nevada, through the tempestuous night, Cooper instructed the flight attendant, Tena Bar, to join the pilots in the cockpit and remain there. Alone in the main cabin, Cooper prepared for his extraordinary exit. He removed his tie, the only personal item he would leave behind, and methodically strapped the money bag to his body. The canvas bag containing $200,000 would have weighed approximately 21 pounds, a significant burden for a parachutist facing the brutal conditions awaiting outside. Nevertheless, with meticulous attention to detail, Cooper secured his newfound wealth and donned one of the parachutes, cinching straps and checking buckles with practiced hands. The leap into legend. Somewhere over southwestern Washington, as the storm intensified and darkness enveloped the landscape below, Cooper made his move. At approximately 8:13 p.m., a warning light illuminated in the cockpit, indicating that the aft air stairs had been lowered. The pilots felt a sudden pressure change, the unmistakable signature of a breach in the aircraft's seal. The plane lurched slightly, adjusting to the altered aerodynamics as frigid air rushed into the cabin, and the deafening roar of the slipstream drowned out all other sounds. In that pivotal moment, as rain slashed horizontally through the open doorway and wind tore at the cabin's interior, Cooper stood at the threshold between certainty and oblivion. Below him lay only darkness, an impenetrable void of wilderness, punctuated by the jagged silhouettes of Douglas firs and the serpentine gleam of rivers in the intermittent moonlight. The freezing air, thin at the altitude of around 10,000 feet, would have stolen his breath instantly. The wind chill approached 0 degrees Fahrenheit, a lethal environment even without the dangers of a night parachute jump into unknown territory. Yet Cooper did not hesitate. With the ransom money secured to his body and the parachute strapped firmly in place, he took the final step that would transform him from criminal to legend. He leapt from the air stairs into the howling maelstrom, instantly disappearing into the night. That solitary figure, silhouetted momentarily against the stormy sky, would become the emblem of perfect mystery, a human question mark falling through darkness toward an answer that has never been found. The manhunt. When Flight 305 landed in Reno for its scheduled stop, FBI agents swarmed the aircraft, finding nothing but Cooper's black clip-on tie and a few cigarette butts. The manhunt that followed was unprecedented in scale and scope, involving hundreds of FBI agents, local law enforcement officers, and military personnel. Helicopters thundered over the dense forests of southwestern Washington, while ground teams combed through nearly impossible terrain, steep ravines, impenetrable undergrowth, and freezing waterways that could have swallowed a body without trace. The challenges were immense. The search area encompassed thousands of square miles of some of America's most rugged wilderness. The exact jump location could only be approximated, and the stormy conditions on that November night meant that wind could have carried Cooper miles from the projected landing zone. Despite the extraordinary resources deployed, no parachute, no money bag, and no body were recovered. Cooper had vanished as completely as if he had never existed. The investigation continued for years, with FBI agents following countless leads and interviewing hundreds of suspects. They developed a detailed profile. Cooper was likely an experienced parachutist, possibly with military training, familiar with the Seattle area, and the technical aspects of the Boeing 727. Yet every promising lead eventually dissolved into disappointment, every suspect ultimately eliminated through alibis or incompatible evidence. The ghost of D.B. Cooper remained elusive, a phantom dancing just beyond the reach of America's premier investigative agency. A startling discovery. 9 years passed with no physical evidence linked to the hijacking, until February 1980, when 8-year-old Brian Ingram made a startling discovery. While camping with his family along the Columbia River at a place called Tena Bar, about 20 miles southwest of Vancouver, Washington, the boy was digging in the sand to build a fire pit when he uncovered 3 packets of weathered $20 bills. The money, still bound together with the original rubber bands from 1971, amounted to $5,800, a small fraction of Cooper's ransom. FBI agents confirmed that the serial numbers matched those of the bills given to Cooper. This tangible connection to the hijacker reignited public fascination with the case, but ultimately deepened the mystery rather than solving it. The location of the money raised perplexing questions. Tena Bar was miles from any projected flight path or landing zone. Hydrologists and geological experts debated how the money could have reached that specific sandbar, whether carried by water currents, deliberately planted, or transported through some other means. The discovery of the money, rather than closing the case, only added another layer to the enigma, the enduring mystery and cultural legacy. As decades passed, the D.B. Cooper hijacking transcended its status as a mere crime to become a powerful cultural touchstone, a modern American myth that speaks to deeper currents in the national psyche. Cooper emerged as a folk hero to some, a cunning criminal to others, but an object of fascination to all. His image, typically depicted as a man in a suit and sunglasses with a briefcase parachuting into the unknown, became iconic, appearing in movies, television shows, books, songs, and countless other cultural artifacts. The case has spawned a subculture of dedicated amateur sleuths who continue to pursue theories about Cooper's identity and fate. Some believe he was a skilled parachutist who successfully escaped with the money and lived out his days in anonymous prosperity. Others contend he perished in the jump, his remains scattered by scavengers or buried in the impenetrable wilderness. Each theory has its adherents, each piece of evidence its interpreters, creating a vast tapestry of speculation that continues to expand with time. In July 2016, after 45 years of active investigation, the FBI officially suspended the D.B. Cooper case, citing the need to focus resources on more pressing matters. Despite interviewing over 1,000 potential suspects and following countless leads, the Bureau never positively identified Cooper or determined his fate. The case files, containing more than 60 volumes of evidence, witness statements, and investigative reports, were archived, a monument to the most tantalizing unsolved mystery in the history of American law enforcement. The allure of the perfect mystery. The enduring fascination with D.B. Cooper transcends mere curiosity about an unsolved crime. It touches something deeper in the human experience, our attraction to perfect mysteries, to narratives that resist closure and definitive explanation. In a world increasingly mapped, monitored, and understood, the Cooper case stands as a rare instance of genuine unknown, a tear in the fabric of certainty through which imagination can flow unimpeded. Cooper's hijacking occurred at a pivotal moment in American history, as the optimism of the 1960s gave way to the cynicism of the 1970s. His audacious act, simultaneously criminal and somehow romantic, captured the imaginations of a nation increasingly disillusioned with authority figures and institutions. Here was a man who had challenged the system with intelligence rather than violence, who had vanished without harming anyone, who had executed a plan of breathtaking boldness and then disappeared into myth. Perhaps most compelling is the perfect balance of known and unknown elements in the Cooper story. We know precisely what happened aboard Flight 305. We can trace his movements through multiple witnesses, yet the most important questions remain unanswered. Who was he? Did he survive? What became of him and the majority of the money? This tantalizing mixture of factual certainty and impenetrable mystery creates the ideal conditions for endless speculation and fascination. As long as these questions remain unanswered, D.B. Cooper will continue to haunt our collective imagination, a phantom in the sky, forever falling through the stormy night toward a destiny that remains despite all our efforts to illuminate it, shrouded in the darkness of not knowing.